Hello, everybody. Um, Today I'm going to talk about the tools that one would use to overcome things in our life. For me specifically, it would be childhood trauma, marriage issues, illnesses. There's a trauma associated with illnesses too. But any type of tools that we can use to help us move forward instead of staying in a victim role or any type of a role where we don't move forward. We just kind of stay put. We're stuck. We're like on a hamster wheel and we just don't move. So I'd like to talk a little bit about what helped me specifically. This may not help others. I'm hoping that it does. Okay, so first and foremost, of course, it is my faith. I've mentioned in my other videos that for me, I was always aware of a higher power. I always knew there was something out there that created me. I always knew that there was something out there that loved me. I was aware of this as a young girl when my parents were harming us and my dad was molesting me. I always was aware of this. I know now it's God, but I was always aware. And I distinctly remember, like during times where my dad would bother me or my parents would beat us or neglect us in any way. I remember in my soul hearing that it's not supposed to be this way. It's not going to stay this way, and it will get better. So hang on. And I clung to that. And of course, you all know, most of you that have followed my YouTube know that I did leave the house at 15 and went into foster care. And so, yes, then it did get better for me, at least the childhood part. So first and foremost is God. Second, the biggest to this day thing that helps me is my humor. I look at that as a gift from God also, because me and especially my 4 siblings underneath me, there's 8 of us, but the 4 directly underneath me, the 4 of us were the mostly worst abused out of the 8. And I don't know where we got it from, but for some odd reason, we all have a really warped, strange sense of humor. But that humor is what carried us. I remember one time talking to my brother at a really young age. I think I was married then and had kids, and I was going through things with Greg, and he was going through things with his wife. And I remember us talking, and he looked at me and he said, he goes, I might have a few holes in my boats, but I haven't sunk yet. And I just remember laughing, but then I remember thinking, boy, he nailed it. It's exactly how I felt our life was. We had all kinds of holes in our boat, but we were all hanging on somehow. So humor is huge. To this day, humor is a big part of my life. And if you can't laugh at things that have happened to you or things that you've been through or things that may or may not, how do you make it through? I don't know. I'm not one to sit around and cry all the time. Not that I don't do my share of crying and my share of, I'll have my pity party days. I had one a few days ago, but I come out of those pretty darn quick. And even with cancer, getting a devastating diagnosis like this, it was, I remember like when I was in the hospital, I handed my son my car keys, and I was in all kinds of drugs and stuff, and I had just gotten my first car on my own at the age of 53. And I remember I handed him my car keys, and I said, you might as well take the darn car because I'm done. I ain't going to use it anymore. It was a brand new car. And then I get home, and I had forgotten that I did that. And I remember as I started slowly feeling a little better and coming out of the fog, I was looking outside in my driveway, and I'm like, where the hell's my car? Who's got my car? And then someone in my family said, well, you gave it to Jason. And I'm like, what? I gave my car away? And they go, yeah, you gave your car away. You figured you were dying, and so you gave your car away. And I remember he only lived a few houses down, but I looked down there, and sure enough, there's my car. And I'm like, I want my car back. So, I don't know. For me, humor is the number. I hate saying number one because God is, but humor's right after that. I just have this ability to laugh. I have to. I have to. And then the other one is when I learned I'm not the only one in this boat. This boat is full. There are all kinds of, I'm going to say adults, because I learned it's not just women that have been molested by those that they trusted and loved. We are a full boat. I'm surprised we aren't sunk. But it is not uncommon. And the older I got and the more I went to therapy and talked to people and met people, and everybody be like, oh, you were too? Well, my gosh, my grandpa got me, or my uncle got me, or my babysitter got me, and, brothers, sisters. And I was like, holy buckets, man, this is just insane. And that, as sick as it is, that really helped me, knowing that I wasn't sitting in this weird place all by myself. So knowing that you're not alone and really clinging to that is key too. Another thing would be you have to seek out a therapist. You have to. I started seeking out therapists, gosh, I think under the age of 15. The court made us go into therapy with my mom and dad. And then I went on my own. I went to different places. It was a whole different world back then with therapists. But back then, most of the therapists to me were useless. They were a big part of the inability to heal and the inability to move forward, the inability to get off this wheel that I felt like I was on. I remember one particular therapist, and this was big back when I was like 15, 16, 17 years old. They would put a chair in front of you and you had to talk to the chair as if it was your abuser. So they put this chair in front of me and they wanted me to talk to my dad. And I just remember, and they're like, you have to, say what you're feeling, say what he did, whatever. And I just remember, and I looked at the guy and I said, this chair is not my dad. I can't do this. Well, that's the only way you're going to get better. You have to confront. Yeah, you got to confront the person, not a goddamn chair. So I just remember flipping the chair over and I said, I'm done with this shit. I'm not, excuse my language, I'm not coming here. And that was a Lutheran church in Racine. And to this day, at 65 years old, which is now 50 years, when I ride by that church, I think of that chair. And I know at that time, everybody was just doing what they knew. They were doing the best that they could with what they had, the knowledge that they had and whatever. So I don't blame anybody or any type of therapy at all. There is no blame with me. I just know that I am so grateful that things have progressed because I didn't really come across good therapies until I was in my late 20s, early 30s. I came across a woman that I felt helped me a lot. And sadly, she was a victim of her dad's molestation, and that might be why her and I connected. But she was a beautiful woman, a successful woman. She was a therapist. I can't believe what other titles she held, but she was very successful. And by all appearances, she looked like a woman who had it all. She had a great marriage, a beautiful home, her own practice, lake home in Madison, a beautiful home in Racine. And she decided to never have children because she said she just never got over what her dad did to her. And I continued seeing her until we moved away. When we left Racine and moved to where we are now, it wasn't long after we moved, I got a phone call that she had committed suicide. And the reason that I heard was she just could not shake what her dad did to her. And that was an eye-opener for me because I'm like, my gosh, if a woman who is trained in this, has worked in this, is knowledgeable in this, cannot shake this, what does that tell us? What does that tell us? The survivors. Is that what's ahead of me? And in a way, I was really disappointed in her because I felt like, not that she took the easy way out, because that's not the easy way out, but that she just couldn't come to terms with it. I don't believe she was a woman of faith. I don't think she was. And I kind of think for me, that's been the whole thing of what's kept me together is my faith. But it was such a sad, sad story. And I went back and I went to her funeral. And, oh, my God, it was full of her patients. It was just so heartbreaking. All of us women knew we all felt the same. We knew what we were feeling. And it was just might be one of the worst funerals I ever went to, because there was no closure. There was this intense heaviness and sadness over it. And standing at the line of when you left the church services was, of course, her parents. And I remember shaking her mom and her dad's hand. And I just remember looking her dad in the eye and thinking, you F, this is why your daughter is laying in that casket. You're the reason why. And it was just an eye-opener for me. From that point on, I took a break in therapy, and then ended up seeking out it again, mostly due to marriage problems. And then I found a woman's group, and it was run by 2 women, both women of faith. And it was just like a once-a-week thing. You go to this group, and I think there were about 6 to 8 of us women from all different age groups, all different settings. And we went there, and we just, checked in each week. I think it was like a couple-hour group. And if you didn't have money, you didn't pay. And if you had money, you paid like $5. But went there, and that probably for me was the biggest start of my healing in all areas of my life. My childhood, my marriage, other things in my life that have troubled me. That was probably the biggest catapult. Why? I don't know. Maybe because I was with 6 to 8 women. The women that were running this were women of faith, but they were real women. They weren't like this, oh, don't say this shit word. We can't be angry, because God says don't let the sun go down in anger. These were real women, and we were allowed to be our real authentic selves. So I think that's what really, really started my healing and changing for me. I went there until that place closed up. That was several years, and then they kind of, that all fell apart as changes come and go. Always seems to ruin things. So I went there until that fell apart. Then again, I took another break. And then I ended up finding a therapist that I went to him for about 3 to 5 years until he quit his practice for reasons I don't know yet. I'm waiting to hear from him to get reestablished, and then I'll go back. But most of the therapists in my life have, I guess it's 50-50, women and men. I don't do better with either or. I do good with a therapist that pushes me, lets me be me, has a faith, is real. I can't handle the fakeness of people. There's just too much of that out there. Calls me out when I need to be called out. I know I'm not always right. And so, when a therapist says to you, well, you might want to rethink that because, I'm not sure I agree with you, or I'm not sure you're looking at this the right way, or, perhaps this one is on you. And to me, that helps because we need to be called out. People like us who have been abused and neglected or whatever at a very young age, we are manipulative, we play games, we do all kinds of things. We need to fix those things. So therapy is key, but you have to find a therapist where you work. One of the ways I knew that a therapist was good was when I left there exhausted, when I left there bawling my eyes out, when I had to go sit somewhere and take a break and think about, all the things I just said, heard, did, things I needed to work on, things I needed to pray about, things I didn't maybe see. That's how I knew my therapy was working, because therapy is work. It isn't something that you go in and everybody says, you're right, you're right, you're right. Oh, God, you have every right to leave him. Oh, God, you have every right to hate your parents. Oh, God, yes, you've been a victim. Oh, whatever. No, that's not therapy. That's not good therapy. Good therapy is something that catapults you off that hamster wheel and gets you moving and gets your, wanting a better life, wanting to be the best that you can be. So it's key. You have got to search out that therapist that brings out all of the things that are inside of us that we've been holding in. So God, humor, therapy. I would say another thing that has helped me a lot is realizing that you're not alone. the biggest one, and I think I'm still working on this for other reasons in my life, but accepting ourselves is huge. People like us that have been molested and messed with as children, and I'm not just talking sexual molestation, but our heads messed with in other ways. My dad messed with our heads in many ways. Like, to me, that damage is far worse than the sexual damage. I can get over someone inappropriately touching me, whatever, get over it. I'm not over the things like, you're never, like my dad used to say to me, you're going to end up a whore on 6th Street. That was a big street in Racine. I didn't really know what a whore was. And when I found out what a whore was, I was like, oh my gosh, that's what I'm going to end up. And, I had such high aspirations for myself when I was a young girl. And my dad always knocked that down. You're not going to amount to anything more than a whore on a corner. You're never going to be anything. No one's ever going to love you. No one's going to want you. You're ugly. You're this. And, like, they wouldn't let us shower. They wouldn't let us use shampoo or bathing products. We stunk. Our clothes were disgusting. Our bedding was disgusting. You talk about bullied. We were bullied bad. Those things have an impact on me to this day that I still find hard to shake. Like, here I am at 65, and every time something happens, or say, I struggle with friendships with women, and if it doesn't work out, my first thought always is, what did I do wrong? What did I say wrong? It's never, what's wrong with them? What the heck is up with them? It's never that. It's always me. What's wrong with me? And that is crippling. And I don't know. I came across a blog a couple weeks ago, and an older woman was talking about that same topic about, not having friends. And that what drew me in. So I listened to her blog. And as I'm listening to it, all she was talking about was all her friends. And all the things, I'm going on this girl trip and I'm doing this, I'm like, so I'm a little confused here. You say that you don't have friends and you're lonely, but yet you're going on all these trips. You shop with them, you're going to their house for lunch. That's not having friends. So in the most politest, respectable way, I went on her blog and I said, this is kind of, it doesn't make sense to me. Because there is a distinct difference between truly not having friends, truly struggling to have friends, and then having a whole closet full of them and still complaining about how you don't have friends. And of course, she replied to me, which I didn't expect, but because her blog is pretty popular and she has a lot of people, but she must have caught my comment, and she came back and just said, well, I was referring to this, this, and this, and this, and, which still to me was all bullshit, because she is not lacking friends. But anyway, then she ended her comment with, and I just want you to know that I'm your friend and I care about you and I'm your friend. And that right there, I was like, here we go again. Just another, it's like when a person says, oh, I love you. We toss that around like it's toilet paper. I love you. You're my friend. It means nothing. I'll pray for you. Do they really? So those things all are things that I struggle with today. And that's something I haven't fixed since I was a child. And I know that goes back to what was done to me, because my confidence isn't really there, although it is getting better, because I'm teaching myself, when something doesn't work out, or a woman decides she doesn't want to no longer be my friend, instead of my first thought being, well, what did I do? What's wrong with me? When I start to feel that way, I will say, it's their loss. What's wrong with them? What's up with that? Instead of owning everything and taking the blame for everything. That's key, I think, in healing too. And so that's something I think we all need to work on, more so adults that have been victimized through childhood and through marriage. So that was something I just wanted to talk about today, are a few tools to help us get through things that we've been through in our life. So God, humor, excellent therapist. Don't own everything that happens in your life. Don't question what you did wrong, or what's wrong with you, or how did I miss this. Don't question, just learn from it and reframe it, and know that you're not alone is there too. So hopefully these things will help some of us get off that hamster wheel and move forward, and know that we can be better than what we've been, better than what's happened to us. It's not healthy to remain in the victim role ever. I walk with a limp more so than with my cancer. I've always said I feel like I walk with a limp, and I always will, from what was done to me as a child. But I'm not stumbling, and I'm not like giving up and laying on the ground and crying. I really feel like I've been successful in my life for what I went through. So again, hopefully some of these tools will help you or make you think, or you can use them to help someone that maybe is going through some bad times. Another thing I'd like to talk about, but I don't know if I'm quite ready yet, and it may take a while, but 5 years ago, I think I had what was an accumulation of my entire life breakdown. In my family members know, a few close people know what happened, but I haven't really went into details about it. God darn it, I want to cry. But 5 years ago, I had, I think, an accumulative effect of everything that happened to me from childhood to my 45-year marriage, and I landed in the psych ward. For me, the psych ward is a big taboo, because my mom was in there like it was going to the candy shop. She was in there all the time. Never got better. Always came out on maximum amount of drugs. More suicidal than when she went in. She was just a hot mess. She never got better. So in our family, when you mentioned psych ward or mental health, or, the crazy, whatever you call it, we called it Mom's Vacation. It was taboo. It became a taboo subject. You just don't talk about it, because that's just, it's not a good thing. Well, I landed there, and I'd like to talk about that at one point. I got to be careful with that topic, because not just because it's a sensitive topic to this day for me, even though it's been 5 years, but like I said, I've never talked about it in detail. But there were some big shining moments in that week that I was there. A few things that happened to me that were pretty, one in particular that really was, I don't know what word to use, but it was a really life-changing moment for me. And it was a blessing. I have no regrets. I'd go again. It saved my life. It is, I wish my mom could have gotten that. She was so ripped off. But anyway, I'd like to talk about that at some point, because I really think that could help a lot of people, because it's such a taboo subject. And no one ever likes to admit that they landed in a place where they were totally, utterly broken. And I was. That was probably the brokenest I've ever been in my life. And I think it is, or was, the accumulation of everything. It wasn't just my marriage. It was everything, just hit me all at once, and I needed to be safe. So I'm going to end that today. I hope everyone has a good few days, and I hope some of these tools that I gave you and talked about can help you or someone else. I'm not sure when I'll be able to talk about the other stuff, but I think what I'm going to do is just ramble. When I come on, just ramble, and it is what it is, because it seems like every time I have a plan, then something else comes up or something else is on my mind, and I end up changing my mind anyway. So it's just going to be what it is, and I'll have to remember to put the tags up, and if someone's interested in what I have to say, they can come. Please remember to share my channel. I hope you're blessed by my channel. Share it, subscribe, comment, and have a good week.